Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Testing 1 2, testing 1. Okay, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. MG here, MG Covers, bringing you our part 2 of how to handicap soccer, how to factor in situational angles and evaluate sportsbook lines. Before we get started, we are proud. This video is proudly sponsored by dogsandaces.com. Go to dogsandaces.com. They have our March Madness package. All of March Madness picks. You pick the handicap of your choice, $75. Also, my NHL totals plays are there. They have daily and weekly cards that you can purchase there as well. Very credible handicappers, very good handicappers. And again, it's where I sell my NHL totals. So here we are, how to handicap soccer part 2. Quick background. What we're going to do tonight is I'm going to go sort of review last week's video, and then we will, sorry about that, review last week's video, and then kind of start into what I'm going to consider like part 2, situational angles or situational handicapping. And it's going to be a long video, a lot of good information. So if you have questions throughout this, just put them in the chat, and then when I get to the end, I will address those if I can. So how this all started, I had somebody send me an email on a DM on Instagram, wanted me to help them. I think it was handicap NHL. Well, obviously I was not going to reveal my stat model that I currently use. And I knew he had an interest in soccer. I said, well, I tell you what, why don't I take my handicap and expertise and knowledge, and we'll see if we can create a profitable model for soccer. And then it just turned into this pretty big project. And I've actually enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun. So anyway, so let's get started. We're going to first start talk about sports betting in general. So to be profitable in sports betting, it requires 2 things. Number one, a statistical model, which is what I call objective handicapping. And it also requires situational angles, which is what I call subjective handicapping. Most people that start in this business generally start subjective handicapping, where they're just kind of looking at a game and evaluating game from more of a global perspective, like, oh, this team looks good, they play well on the road, et cetera, et cetera. Well, that you might win short term, but you're not going to win long term. You have to have a statistical model, combine those two, and it will be a profitable strategy. All right, so here's the stat model that I came up with soccer. A little bit of background. You can watch the first video if you'd like. But in essence, what it is, goals for divided by goals for plus goals against equals projected win percentage. Now, how I came up with this formula was founded by a guy named Bill James, who came up with the Pythagorean theorem of baseball. And he took that and he applied it to baseball, and that's kind of exploded into this whole sabermetrics ordeal, which is pretty interesting. They actually made a movie about it called Moneyball. So what I did was it's a very simple formula, and I took it and applied it to soccer to see if it would create value and help us find, margins that were profitable in soccer. So that's it. Goals for divided by goals for plus goals against equals our projected win percentage. Now, let's look at a real life example. This is the spreadsheet I came up with. We'll talk about this a lot tonight. And first, I want you to look at Liverpool. Okay, Liverpool, this is year to date. I think this is year to date last week. They've scored 68 goals and they've given up 17 goals. So what we do is it's pretty simple. We take 68 plus 17. That gives us a total of 85. And if you remember the formula, then we would take 68 divided by 85 and gives us a projected win percentage of 80, which means Liverpool should win 80% of their games. All right. Now, this is the secret to all of this. What I do in any sport is I use most recent performance because it is the best indicator of how a team is going to perform. Lost train of thought. Yeah, most recent stats are more predictive of how a team's going to perform in their next game as opposed to year-to-date stats. So this is the secret. What I do is I take the last 5 games for goals for and goals against, and I use that and come up with what I call like recent performance. So in the last 5 games, Liverpool has scored 12 goals and they've given up 2 goals. So that total would be 14. And if you take 12 divided by 14, that gives you 0.85 projected win percentage. Now, if you take 0.85, see if you guys can see this cursor here, you take 0.85 and add it to 0.80, divide by 2, and that gives you 0.82 final. So that means Liverpool's projected win percentage is 0.82. And what we do is we just basically convert this into a power ranking. You just take the decimal out, and so their power ranking would be 82. So again, quick review. We take year-to-date goals for, add that with goals against, divide 68 by 85. It gives us 0.80. And then we're going to take the last 5 goals for and goals against. And this creates a so what a team did in the last 5 games is very important. So we're weighing this. This is 50% of their power ranking, and the year-to-date is 50%. So half of their power ranking is going to be based on how they performed in the last 5 games. So this gives us a 82 power ranking. Now, next slide. Liverpool power ranking is 82. Now, what I'm going to do next is we're going to convert this to a money line. So that 82, what we do is we take 82 as basically what we call implied probability. Now, don't freak out. That's not a big word. It's just, it means their odds of winning the game. So they have an 82% chance of winning the game based on the formula that we use. Now we have to convert that to a money line because odds are presented in money lines. Now this is a calculator. You can find these anywhere on the internet. And in my spreadsheet, I actually have this broken down so you don't have to keep searching for it. But if you take 82% and convert that to a money line, it becomes minus 455. So the actual line that we come up with for Liverpool would be minus 455. Now, there are some adjustments we need to make. Minus 455. Now, you see where it says minus 25 draw. In soccer, we've researched this pretty thoroughly. We researched several leagues, German league, EPL, France, Italy. And what we found is on average, the games end up in a draw or a tie about 25% of the time. So that percentage that we have, the 82%, is just factoring in win percentage. So we have to take out the draw. So we take minus 455, subtract 25 from that, and our final money line for Liverpool is minus 430. Now, you say, well, how accurate is that money line? So if they were playing in a game, we would have Liverpool minus 430. So let's look at an actual odds from this weekend, and bingo, Liverpool is minus 478. So it's pretty close. And what's really interesting, I was helping a friend who was on last week's video, Ethan, when I was telling him is, and this is real important, when you come up with a stat model, you want your stat model to be close to the actual odds on games that you don't play, because it means that your stat model is valid. Like if this was minus, like if you came up with a bunch of money lines for a bunch of teams and you check the odds and they were all over the board, then it's probably not going to be a consistent model. So this is not going to be a game that we play, and I'll explain that in a second, but it does show that how accurate it is at creating an actual line. So, and how we would evaluate this. So the Liverpool power rank would be minus 430. Now the odds that they had for the game was minus 478. So this would be a no play because there's absolutely no value in that game. And I'm not sure we would even play it if, say, Liverpool was minus 230. But I just wanted to show you how that all works. Again, the draw is very important that you factor that in as well. So let's look at a real life example. All right, and this is our spreadsheet that computes all this for you. And this is a game, I talked about this on Instagram yesterday. We won this on a huge win. First team here is Leverkusen. Okay, and out beside that, you'll see 13-9. That's their record, 13-9. They were at home playing Bremen. I actually spelled that wrong. It should be an N. I apologize. And their record is 9-7. The reason I show this is what the general public will look at. The general public looks at overall record, where we don't really look at record at all because it's meaningless as far as our stat model is concerned. So now I'm not going to bore you with all the details of how we did it. Again, it's the same method I talked about, how we come up with the numbers for Liverpool. But at the end, if you look over here at the very end, we have I have problems pronouncing this name. Leverkusen is 62 final power ranking, and Bremen is a 61 power ranking. So in essence, the way we look at this and the way we evaluate it from our stat model, both these teams are pretty much even. Whereas the general public would view Leverkusen as the favorite in this game, and they were. But this is why you have a stat model, because if you look where it says last 5 goals for and goals against, Bremen, they were playing pretty well. They scored 11 goals and gave up 5, so really good defense. So what we do now is, again, I'm going to show you this money line conversion. So power ranking, Leverkusen is 62. Bremen is 61. So we have to convert those into money lines. So we'll do 62 first. So 62 converted into a money line is minus 165. Then we have to subtract 25. That makes our line minus 140 would be the final money line for Leverkusen. Now Bremen, same thing. We take 61, we convert it into a money line, minus 160. We subtract 25 for the draw, and that gives us minus 135, our line. Now, the best way to do this, you would want to do this before the odds were released so that you can compare our line to the actual line. So let's look at this game, and it's already going to show the results, but what I want you to focus on are the money lines here. And if you look, Leverkusen was the favorite, minus 175, and our line was minus 140. Now, we're going to talk a lot about value tonight. And when you're talking about value, another word for value, just to put it in layman's terms, is a good deal. Okay. So, and we're actually going to talk about a little bit later, we're going to show you how to statistically quantify value. But just in layman's terms, think of it like this. Think of it as sports betting is a retail and wholesale business. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to buy teams at wholesale and sell them at retail. That's how we make a profit. So our retail line for Leverkusen is minus 140. Okay. So if you walked in the store and saw something for minus 1, you knew it was worth minus 140, and they had it advertised for minus 175, you would think, well, hell, it shouldn't be 175. It's overpriced. And that's exactly the situation in this scenario. They are severely overpriced. There's no value at all. Now, conversely, if you looked at the line, you saw Leverkusen was, say, minus 120, and our line was minus 140. Now we're getting value because the line is less than our line. So retail would be 140. We would be buying that team at minus 120, as opposed to where the line is minus 175, but the line should be minus 140. So hopefully that's not too confusing. Now, here's where the really value kicks in. This was really surprising when we did the numbers for this. Our line for Bremen is minus 135, but look what our actual odds were, plus 450. And this is another reason why I'm extremely fascinated by soccer, is that you get these huge, huge dogs. But when you look at our power ranking, we have these teams even. So we're getting a plus 450 dog. Well, we're a team that we look at could as a 61, which means their line should be minus 135, but we're getting them at plus 450. And obviously this was a play, and we actually won the game there. So that's how you use our odds, our lines, and compare those against the odds maker. All right, now, we did not get this in the last week's video, but again, there's the objective side, which I just showed you, and then there's also the subjective side of handicapping, which is what I call situational angles. It's just a term I came up with. It's like, all right, here's a situation. How do we take that situation and apply it to what's going to happen in the game? So there's basically four things we're going to look at in soccer. This may change. This is kind of what I came up with. I got two guys helping me that have actually played soccer, actually wagered on soccer, not successfully, but they really understand the game. I have no background in soccer whatsoever. I mean, I'm not totally oblivious to how the game's played. I understand it, but what we came up with are four factors: form, home and away, wins and losses, injuries, and weather. So form. Now, if you've watched my hockey videos, I refer to form as confidence. And the reason I like the word confidence is because that's the term the players use. Say a team's won their last 4 out of 5 games. They interview them after the game. You'll hear the players say, hey, we're playing really good, playing good defense. We're playing with a lot of confidence. A team that's won, say, one out of their last 5 games, you interview them and they'll say the same thing. They'll say, hey, we're not playing well. We're not playing with a lot of confidence. So another word, and the reason I like confidence, that's a term that the players use. It also refers to form. And when you look at form from a subjective side, you look at most recent performance. In hockey, I look at the last 10 games, sometimes 5 games. Baseball, you want to look at about the last 5-10 games. Football, last 4 games, because that's going to give us an accurate picture of how that team's performing right now and will help us predict how they're going to perform in the game we're going to potentially wager on. So when you look at Bremen, they had won 2 out of their last 5. That might not seem impressive, but they had no losses, which means they had 2 wins, and they only had 3 draws. And in those 5 games, they only gave up 1 goal per game average. So in 5 games, they only had 5 goals scored against them. So they're playing really good defense, playing with a lot of confidence. So when I look at situational angles, again, we know we have value with the line, and we can't just place a wager just because a stat model says that we should. We have to have several subjective situational angles in our favor in order to play that game. So the form is real good for Bremen. Now, they were on the road, so I want to know how that team performs on the road. And on the season, they've had 9 wins. 4 of those came on the road. So that's pretty good. So that's almost 50% of their wins were on the road. So they've won on the road. It's always hard to win on the road, but 4 of those victories were on the road. That's pretty good. 4 road wins. Now they've only had 4 losses on the road. That's also pretty good. So they're a pretty solid team away. Now, if I was looking at this and I saw Bremen was maybe 1-9, had only won 1 game on the road, then that would definitely be something that would be negative situationally for them. But as it stands, they had won 4 of their 9. Lost train of thought. So 4 of their victories were on the road. There we go. I spit it out. So that's a positive. We had no major injuries for Bremen, and the weather's something else that we look at. Now, I actually wrote some notes. Again, I am not familiar with soccer, but I've learned this from the guys that were helping me this week. And here's what I came up. If you're new to soccer, or if you agree or disagree with that, leave a comment in the description below. But if you have heavy rain or we got heavy snow, that means that game's going to be low scoring. So let's say a team is playing another team that scores a lot of goals. That heavy rain or that heavy snow is going to probably bring the scoring down, and that underdog might have a better chance of winning the game. And also, it might be related to totals, which we're going to get in the next video, which means if there's heavy snow, heavy rain, it's going to be a low scoring game. Very similar to football. Now, this is interesting. Light rain might favor a team that has a lot of shots on goal, because when there's just a little bit of rain, that the ball is going to skip. It makes it hard for the goalie to judge. So if a team gets a lot of shots on goal, maybe like a Liverpool team, um, they might even score more, or you might think of that as the game going over. All right, so now what I'm going to do next, so we're going to look at this is my buddy Ethan. He gave me permission to look at to show this tonight, and this is how he situationally handicapped it. Again, I just used the um, uh, spreadsheet and PowerPoint just so you could see it, but you could write all this out. And just to review this game real quick, if you look up top, um, the home team is listed second, and the away team is listed first. I'm going to save myself and not pronounce those teams. But the away team had a power ranking of 54. Home team had a power ranking of 35. So there was a good spread there. That means the top team was the favorite. Convert those to a money line, that came up to minus 117. Home team plus 185. If you factor in the 25 for draws, we had plus 108, and the home team was plus 210. The Vegas lines were plus 140. For the other team, plus 228. And this is a game we actually played when we lost this game. And I like being realistic and showing you guys even the games we lose. But how we situationally evaluate this, if you can look, I'll go ahead and give it a shot. I guess it's Fiorentina, maybe. Fiorentina, 3 of their 8 wins were away, and they've only won 1 of their last 5 games, tied 3 of their 5. And you look right here, the home team was missing a lot of players. And you look down here, also the home team hasn't scored in 5 of their last 7 matches. So again, we went through home and away, we went through form, evaluated injuries, and we went ahead and decided to go with Fiorentina at plus 140. Now they did lose that game, but again, and some people might say, if you're looking at this and you say, well, hey, I would look at this based on situational angles and say not to play Fiorentina. And again, this is really is going to separate somebody from being a good handicapper and a below average handicapper. Winning and losing is taking these situations and how would you apply that? Does this mean you're going to play the game? You're not going to play the game, etc. And if you look down here at the very bottom, I'm going to go in this in a little bit greater detail in just a second. But this is how you statistically quantify value. If you take the 108, that would be our line, divide that by the odds line, which was 140, that will give you plus 77. If you subtract 1 from that, gives you 23% margin. And again, think of this in terms of retail wholesale. If you walked into a store and you said, how much are those headphones? They said, headphones, you get 5% off today. Well, 5% off is not really a good deal. Or if you went to another store, you saw the same headphones and they said, hey, you can buy these headphones. These headphones are 23% off. Well, now you're getting value. That's a pretty good deal. So let's look at the next one. This is a game between Bournemouth and Newcastle. We originally was going to play Newcastle. Our stat model said play Newcastle. And so let's look at the situational angles. Newcastle had won 3 of 5 of their last matches, but now they were the away team. Newcastle hasn't won an away match since 1-5-19. But you could see here Ethan's notes. He said Newcastle is great at home, not so much away. Whoops. Oh, crap. I just spilled a drink. I apologize. Bear with me 1 second. All right, apologize for that, guys. All right, so again, so Newcastle not a good away team. Newcastle had only won 2 of their 14 away games. Only 2 of 9 wins were away. And finally, injuries. If you look, Newcastle had several injuries. So we actually decided not to play Newcastle, and it was a smart move. Newcastle ended up tying the game. So situational angles are very important, and subjective handicapping should be a part of any type of handicapping. So you can't do one or the other. You have to do both. So let's review our situational angles. You want to look at current form, how that team is performing in their last 5 games for soccer. Are they 1-5? Are they 2-5? I want to know their win-loss record in the last 5 games. How they're scoring, etc. I want to know if they're at home. I want to know what their home record is, recent, year to date. And same deal with away. If they're on the road, can they win on the road? Are they capable of winning on the road? And injuries are very important in soccer. That's why I think we talked about this today. If we're going to wager on these games, soccer teams, if you're not familiar with soccer, they play about once a week. So more than likely, we're going to end up having to wager late, not late, but like maybe the day before, even the day of, and we could possibly lose a little bit of value there because we're wagering late. But I think it's a smart thing to do. And finally, weather. You need to check the weather because obviously that can play a huge role. Now, calculating money lines. I want to review this. I didn't cover this in detail yesterday. All right, so let's say we have a team. Their power ranking converted into a minus 117 money line conversion. So we have to subtract 17 to get the actual number. But when you take 25 minus 117, you can't just take it all the way down to, like normally that would be 2, what would it be, 0? So that normally be like 82. No, 2. Actually, no, that'd be 92. So if you just did it the traditional way, subtracting 117 from 25 would be 92. But again, you have to subtract it the way odds work. So when odds get to, so it starts at 117, when it gets to 100, then it goes into the dog side. So here's how we do it. When you have a favorite team and you're subtracting the 25, you first have to get it to 0. So if you take 117, get it to 100. So what makes 117? How do we get 117 to 100? We subtract 17. So 117 minus 17 gets us to 100. So 25 minus 17, we still have 8 more points left to subtract. So we take 100 plus 8 gives us, or you could say that you're subtracting it. So that would give you 100 plus 8, so 108. So 117 subtracting the draw amount of minus 25 would make this team a plus 108 final line. And again, I'm going to leave this here. You can go back and review it if that sounds confusing. So let's look at another example. Minus 158. This one's pretty cut and dry. You subtract 25. So that final number, our line would be minus 133. And here's another example. If it's a dog number, if it starts a dog number, it's plus 125, then you would simply add that 25 to the 125, making it plus 150 final line. So hopefully that clears it up. I know I had some questions about that last week. All right, statistically quantify value. And again, you hear that a lot in the sports betting business. Hey, you need to find value. I'm looking for value. We got great value in this game. Well, what's the beauty of sports betting is you can statistically quantify value, which means when you wager, you know exactly how much value you're getting. And another word for value would be basically a good deal. Okay. And I'm gonna give you one example. My daughter, youngest one, she totaled a car. She's fine. This happened, I guess, about a month ago. But anyway, we just got our insurance check. So it was a car we bought for $6,000. We bought it at wholesale from a dealer, a real good friend of mine. But when the insurance check came, we got $9,000 back, even though we paid $6,000. That is great. That is a great deal. That is good value. So all value means is a good deal. So let's look at this example here. Let's say Chelsea, we had their power ranking recently at 58. So we take 58, we convert it into a money line of minus 140. Now we have to take out the 25 for the draw. So their final line, our line for Chelsea would be minus 115. Now, if we look at the game here, this was over the weekend. If you notice, the line for Chelsea is minus 117. Our line is minus 115. So here's a way to actually, again, statistically quantify value to see how much value we're getting. Now, they lost this game, which I'm going to come back to in a second. So if you take 115, so you take the lower number and put it on and put that number on top. So you take 115 divided by 117, that's going to equal 0.98. Then you subtract 1 and you get 2%. So if you, again, I used this example earlier. If you walked into a store and they said, "Hey, we got a good deal on these, on this microphone, it's 2% off." That's 2% is not a good deal. Okay. And going back to my earlier point, if you look at minus 115, our line is very close to the odds maker line. So this would be in this situation, this would be a no play. Okay. Now, let's suppose, just for hypothetically, Chelsea again is minus 115, but let's say the odds for this game were plus 120. So what we do here, we're going to take, we can't just take 115 minus 120. We realize that plus 120 is a dog number. Okay. So what we have to do is we have to convert that dog number into a number that can be divided by the 115. So if it's 120, hopefully this doesn't confuse people. So you need to subtract again to get it to 100. Okay. So to get 120 to 100, you would minus 20. So then 100 minus 20 would be 80. And that's going to be the number we use to figure out our margin. Again, so if odds for 175, then you would take 100 minus 75, and that would equal 25. So in this example, again, just to review real quickly, Chelsea's minus 115. Our odds, let's say our odds were plus 120. You would take 100 minus 20, and that would equal 80. So then you take 80 divided by 115. That equals 0.66 minus 1. That is a 34% margin or 34% value. And again, when you look at these two scenarios, look down 2%, that's not a good deal, no value. 34%, that's great value and a great margin. And here, this is really important right here. If you look at 115, the reason we didn't play this game is we had no value in playing Chelsea at 115. And if we would have played them, we would have lost. We'd actually played some juice in the 115. But let's say if that line was plus 120, we may have played them and we were buying them at low cost. So if we lose the game, all we would lose would be on a $100 player, we would lose 100, as opposed to if we had played them at, say, minus 117, we would have lost $117. So understanding value and margin is very important. And I would say and again, an easy way to look at it or think of it, I don't play any game unless I have at least a 15% margin. And with soccer, you'll see really huge margins, which is what I love about the sport. But generally, if you get like the game where it's like 8 or 9% margin, it's probably not a good game to play. But this scenario here on the right, if we had those numbers, if we have a 34% margin in any game, that's going to be a play. All right. Now, here's something else we can do that's really interesting is you can calculate profit potential. And what I mean by profit potential is this will help you decide whether or not to wager on a team or not. Now, this was the game I was talking about, the big upset we won at plus 450. We actually played it at plus 405 in our example. All right, so you see Bremen is plus 450. Now, what we would do in this scenario is we need to simulate 10 games between the two teams, assuming the same factors, scenarios, odds, etc. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to assume that these two teams, if you remember back in our previous example, these teams were 62 and 61 in a power ranking. So basically they were even, okay? Both teams have an equal chance of winning a game. So we're going to pretend hypothetically that these teams play 10 times under the same conditions, et cetera, et cetera. It's hypothetical, but it helps us calculate our profit potential. So Leverkusen is going to win 5 games, and Bremen's going to win 5 games, and both teams will lose 5 games as well. So when you look at this, let's start with Bremen. So Bremen loses 5 games. So 5 times 100 would mean we are in the hole $500. And then they're going to also win 5 times. But we get dog money when they win, which is plus 450 in this example. So we take 5 times 450, that equals 2250. So our profit potential would be 1750. So the point I'm making is you can again statistically quantify profit potential and decide whether or not it's a good play or not. In fact, if you really think about it, they would only have to win at a percentage of 20% to make this profitable. What I mean by that, let's say Bremen loses. Well, no, I take that back. Let's see, if Bremen loses 8 out of 10, that'd be in the whole 800. And if they won twice, that'd be 900. Yeah. So they'd only have to win at 20% to basically break even. And that's why we do our power rankings, because we knew both teams had at least a 50% chance of winning. So we knew that our profit potential in this game was huge. And if this scenario comes up again in our handicapping, we would always play this. Now let's look at the other side of it. Leverkusen. They were minus 175. So let's do the same thing, calculate the same profit potential for them. And this is why the general public loses money. They get 5 wins. So 5 times 100 would be $500. Now they also have 5 losses, but you have to take 5 times 175, and they would lose minus 875 for a loss of minus 375. And this, my friends, is why the general public and the majority of people that wager on sports lose money. There is absolutely no value in playing the minus 175 line. So pretty cool example. All right. Next thing we're going to do is I'm going to use the spreadsheet to show you how you can calculate power rankings. All right. Now, here. Whoops. My bad. Oh, snap. Chrome, new tab. Sorry about that, guys. All right. All right. This right here. Oops. All right. This is the spreadsheet I was talking about. What's really cool about this spreadsheet, you can look. This is the bottom of it. Remember I was talking about the money lines? It's actually I already have this printed out, so you can convert it. So if a team is 26, that would be plus 275. If a team on the money line is, what were those examples? See, 62 and 61. There they are right there, minus 160, 160. So that's all done for you. Okay, so we go up here to the top. This is our spreadsheet. Now, the spreadsheet also will calculate totals. We're going to do a totals video next week, so I'm really excited about this. But what I want to do is I just want to show you how cool this spreadsheet is, where we can do a whole league in no time at all. So, again, you can see this from the previous examples. The site I'm going to go to. Let's go to. All right, this is soccerstats.com. And this is the French league. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on here and I'm going to copy all of this. Okay. So we copy here and then we go, whoops. And what I do is I just scroll down the spreadsheet just anywhere over here. And I just paste all this in here. And somebody that's really good with Excel, you might be able to tell me a better way to do this or a faster way to do this, but I've just found this way to be pretty good here. All right. Now, So I get this in. So I take all of these teams here. I highlight these teams here, 1 through 20. I click copy, and then I'll come back up here. And then I click paste. And then I change this to 20. And then I go over here and I click remove hyperlinks. Whoops. Put it back at 20. All right, so there we go. So it's got all the teams already spelled for us. We don't have to do any like quote data entry. Now this is really cool. And go back over here where we copied and paste goals for, goals against. We just take this, do the same thing, copy. Go back up here to goals for, goals against. Click right there. And then when we click paste, boom, 20. And now it's actually calculated our first percentage, our year-to-date percentage for all the teams. Now, here's how I do goals for, goals against. Let's pick a team in here. Let's pick, I think this is pronounced Nice. So let's do Nice right here. So we're going to do last 5 goals for, goals against using the site Soccer Stats. So I go here, I click this team. And this is pretty easy to do. You go over here. Where it says last 8 matches here. So you'll see the team that we're looking at is highlighted. So I just count the goals up. I start with goals for. So 1, 2. So they scored 2 goals in their last 5 games. So not good. So then we'll go here and I put a 2 here. And then I'll come over here. I'll calculate the opposing team's goals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 2 and 6. You can see this is pretty cool. I mentioned this in the first video. Their projected win percentage year to date is 42, but you can look at their last 5 games. Their projected win percentage is 0.25, which means they're not playing in good form compared to their year to date, and their final power ranking number would be a 33. So again, I would just go through and do that for every single team. And again, like I said, to go through this will be real quick. And let me show you I might as well do the totals here too, just so you can see this. I go back over here and you have to find out how many total games they played. So Nice has played 29 games. So if you put the 29 in here, watch this. 29. Now this is pretty cool. So what this does is this calculates their year-to-date totals is 1.72, which means the total average of their goals along with their points. So the final score of the games that they played in year-to-date averaging 1.72. And the last 5, their average is 1.6 for a final totals number of 1.66. So then what we would do is we would get the opposing team. Let's get another team in here. Let's say Monaco, because I can pronounce it. We'll do Monaco as well. So Monaco's goals for would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 goals for those guys. Let's see where they're at here. 7. So 7. Their goals against. It's going to be 1, 2, 3. So 3 goals against. So this is pretty cool too, because you can see that, hey, this team's playing really well, right? 0.40 projected win percentage year to date, but their current win percentage projection is 0.70. And so again, we go over here and find how many games they've played. Monaco's played 29 games. We type in 29, and their total is 2.27. What you would do is when you're doing the totals, I'll just give you the basics. This isn't the complete version of how we do it. So then you would so if these 2 teams were playing, you needed a totals average. You would take 1.66 plus 2.27, add that, divide it by 2, and that gives you the totals factor for both those teams. And you can compare that number against the odds that are listed for totals to see if there's value. And totals in soccer is really interesting. And again, we're going to get in that next week, but I do want to show you that this spreadsheet can do all that. So it can do, I mean, realistically, you could probably, I mean, you already did 2 teams, there's on what, 20 teams in this league. I mean, I could do it in 15 minutes or less. And then I'd have a whole league of games done as opposed to doing this by hand where you sit down, writing. So this spreadsheet's really cool. All right, now we'll go back to, let's go back to our video here. Next, so I will actually give you this spreadsheet for free, but you've actually got to purchase one of our products. So, hey, it's fair. And the reason we're doing this is because I spent a lot of time on the spreadsheet. This video is actually sponsored by Dogs and Aces. So what we're going to do is pretty simple. If you buy any of our packages, our $75 packages, we're going to give you the spreadsheet for free. So there's a lot of value in that. You'll get the spreadsheet for free. You also get, in your options, you can pick up my weekly NHL totals, $75, or you can purchase the March Madness tournament package for $75. And you have 2 cappers that you can pick from. Jimmy's had a phenomenal year. He's 81-41, $2,700 up for a $100 player. That's huge. 27 units. That's huge. Redbeard plays a little bit more. A little bit more aggressive. He plays a few more games on his card. He's 172, real solid. 2,400 for a $100 player. So when you purchase the March Madness tournament package for 75, pick which capper you would want to get the plays from, and then we'll give you the spreadsheet for free. Again, you don't have to buy one package. You can buy either Jimmy's, Redbeard's, or you can pick up my NHL totals, and we'll give you this spreadsheet for free. So what I want to do next is I'm going to review my year-to-date record that I've done this. Again, full disclosure, I haven't wagered any money. I haven't wagered even $100 a game because I'm still sort of testing this, but had really good results. This was week 1. We ended up 3-3, and I predicted it reminds me so much of hockey, which I love hockey. It's one of my best sports. I think my record, I have to check it. I think my record's like 110 and 108, but we're up like 25 grand or 25 units for hockey. So when you play a lot of dogs, you're not going to have this, 60, 58% win percentage, but you're going to make money, which is what we're really trying to do. So I finished the first weekend 3-3, up $500 for a dime player, $1,000 player. So in essence, we went 3-3 and won half a unit. So if you're $100 better, you would have been up $50. And if you look here, this game right here, the Wolves, we had them at plus 580. What's really cool about soccer, we had them power rankings just a little bit better than the team they were playing, and they were leading 1-0, and the opposing team scored a goal with like a minute to go, and ended up tying. We ended up losing, so we're real close to hitting that one. And then this week we had a lot of success here. We hit a big dog there at plus 204. And then the game that I mentioned, use the example, Bremen, we hit them at plus 405. And we actually finished year to date now, we are 8-9, and a $1,000 player would be up $33.20, or a $100 player would be up $332, even though we have a losing record of 8-9. I hate saying losing record. It sounds bad, but I definitely think that this model, using these situational angles, can be extremely profitable for you. So there's a ton of value or a ton of opportunity in wagering in soccer. I think it's something that I'm going to add to my repertoire and probably end up actually making this part of my business of sports betting and is wagering on soccer, because it's a year-round sport. It's really cool. They have MLS that just started up, and I think all the European leagues, once they're finished, they'll start up again in August. So it's almost a year-round sport, and you get just so much value. There's not many sports. I mean, hockey, you never see a dog at plus 580. I mean, like there's a team tonight, Arizona, I think they're plus 240, 250. But you just have so many opportunities to hit dogs. And when you have that much opportunity to hit a dog, you don't have to have a 60% win percentage to cut a profit. Again, we're 8-9, up $3,300. So that's really good. But as always, full disclosure, wager at your own risk. Again, I haven't wagered any of my money. So if you start wagering this weekend, actually they're on international break, so there's not any games this weekend. There will be next week. And if you lose money, that's at your own risk. That's on you. So if you want to purchase the packages, if you look in the description box, there's a link. So I should make that should be pretty easy. All you have to do is just click on that link. It'll take you to Dogs and Aces. You can pick out which weekly package you would like. And add me on Instagram if you're not following me on already at MG Covers. You can follow me on Twitter, MG Comedy. Like this video, subscribe. Hey, and if you're watching this video live, hey, I greatly appreciate the support. Special shout out to Luca and Ethan for helping me this week. They watched last week's video. They had some questions. If you purchase the packages, or even if you don't, you got the spreadsheet, or you don't have the spreadsheet and you got questions, you can either leave them in the comments here. I will try to answer them, or you can just send me a DM on Instagram. If you're a handicap, you're watching this video, you got some suggestions, I would love to hear them. Again, this is sort of a work in progress. Again, I think it's profitable. Well, it is profitable first 2 weeks. You still can't, that's still a small sample to say, hey, this is a effective way to handicap, but it looks like it's going in the right direction. So if you have any suggestions or comments, please send them my way. And as always, thanks for the support. And whoops, let me go back here. Next week, I will be doing another video, same time, Monday night, and we're going to break down totals. That's all we're going to talk about is soccer totals. So it's going to be really interesting. We do it the same way. We create our online. We look for margins, etc. And our record, and I should have went over this when I went over the record. We're actually 2-1 in totals. So we won 2 and lost 1. We haven't really looked at a lot of the totals, but the 3 that we wager on, we had really good value, good margin, and we're 2-1. So I think totals using the same handicapping model is going to be very successful. So anyway, hope everybody has a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.